Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Rick Ornelas about the changing definition of leadership. Rick Ornelas, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
John, hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be with you. I'm super excited to have a nice conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about the changing definition of leadership and really what that means for organizations, for their people, and for the future of work. As we get started, I wanted to share Rick's bio with everybody. Rick Ornelas is a best-selling author, professional coach, and the founder of iSpark Change. He teaches entrepreneurs how to level up in all areas of life so they can expand their social impact to spread positive change around the world. With a social sciences and communications degree and over 25 years of additional study, he has trained over 10,000 hours in communication, sociology, interpersonal relationships, and leadership. He's the author of the best-selling 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World. Rick has been featured in multiple media outlets, including national and international television and radio. He's a guest contributor for various websites, regular writer for Lifehack, and has provided inspiration as a guest on over 50 podcasts. His next book, 12 Hours of Heaven, Time on Earth, is in the works. What a wonderful background. It's a pleasure to have you with me today. Anything else you would like to share with listeners by way of your background before we launch on into the conversation?
Just that, for them, my background is just a result of my experiences, and I'm sure their background is as well. And so I just hope that they are open to learning something today that can help expand that.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So as we launch in, why don't you explain a little bit why I suppose it's even important to talk about how leadership has shifted over time and how we define it and explain it has shifted over time. And then we can get into what those shifts have actually been and the impacts on the nature of work.
Sure. And it's an awesome question, but the biggest reasons that that leadership has shifted is that we continue to evolve as a human species. We've been evolving for 10,000 years or whatever it is, and we continue to evolve on a regular basis. And a lot of that history was in that militaristic kind of top-down type of leadership. So that led to a certain type of leader, right? And we can get into that in a little bit. But now we've changed, right? We've changed a lot in recent history, but even more so in the past couple years as a result of that pandemic, which has led to significant changes in leadership that are, they really started probably about 30 years ago, but they really came to a head probably in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah. And I think about, that kind of the traditional, quote unquote, traditional notion of what a good leader is, the great man theory, and like the tall, strong, authoritative leader, right? And that's kind of what you were talking about. That's a more of a militaristic, authoritarian, power kind of oriented leader. And we see history is replete with those types of individuals. And then we get into the Industrial Revolution and multiple phases of the Industrial Revolution. And over time, we've started to see that approach, while it has its place in certain contexts, doesn't always fare so well in other contexts, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. And what we're finding in as I was saying, as human beings continue to evolve, right, and we change, that they place greater demands on those leaders. And that's why that type of leadership doesn't work anymore because it has new demands being placed on it, and frankly can't meet those demands.
It's a scary thing for people who have been in leadership roles for years and decades, all of a sudden to realize, come to the realization that, hey, my approach to leadership may not work as well as it did 2 or 3 or 4 decades ago. And so we acknowledge that this is a hard thing for people to shift and to change regularly, but that's the nature of the current world of work. And this really uncertain, messy world that we live in, is that uncertainty and messiness is the name of the game, and shift and change is the name of the game. And so we have to learn how to adjust and to adapt and to pivot and to reskill and to upskill. And that includes everyone on our team, certainly, who are, have the technical expertise to produce the product or service that we're providing. But it also applies to our leadership. We need leaders who are reskilled and upskilled and who can take on new approaches to adjust in the way that they need so they can be effective in this current climate.
Yeah, it's so true. And, a big part of it is this massive global shift that we have, this massive change in social consciousness that we have towards social impact. Because it used to be kind of the, what you were just describing, it's the authoritarian, hey, what I say goes, right? The autocratic, like it's just, hey, this is how it's going to be. And that's persisted in many corporations that were successful, in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s. But that's no longer the case, because social impact has been growing, as I said, for the past couple of decades, and it really has come to light in the past couple of years because of the pandemic, where social impact has been elevated, where companies now see the importance of social impact. And you have large multi-billion-dollar corporations, like Pepsi as an example, large multi-billion-dollar corporations like Pepsi, where you have the CEO, Indira Nooyi, who is changing the whole company culture to be about performance with purpose, that it is about impact that they make, and that's going to drive the success of their organization. That it's not just what she says goes.
Right. What I say goes, do what I say. That carrot and stick approach, a fear-based approach, if you use that, you can get people to fall in line, but it doesn't foster and engender commitment over time. So you might get compliance, but you won't get commitment, you won't get engagement, you won't get the heightened level of productivity and motivation, which will produce the creativity and innovation that will help the organization continue to drive value in the marketplace, right? And so we need leaders now with a different kind of repertoire. They need to be empathic leaders who genuinely care about their people, who recognize the value of their people, invest in their people, empower and support their people to really maximize their potential. That's the type of leader we need. We need leaders who can create trusting, psychologically safe environments. We need leaders who can encourage their people to speak up and to speak out. And that's something that didn't exist in some cases in previous generations in certain industries. And yet that's really what we need today. If we have, if any organization has a hope of staying competitive in a hyper competitive interconnected global marketplace.
Yeah, it's so true, John, because it's now they have to focus, as you said, completely on their people. And that is growing even more so with the emergence of, millennials for a while now, but Gen Z it's the first time in history that we have 5 generations in the workplace at one time, right? And these younger generations, they place greater demands on their leaders than the people that would fall in line, like you said, with that carrot and stick, right? That would just fall in line. Now millennials, they want praise, and they want a lot of follow-up. And then Gen Z, they want to show that they're valued, and they want to know that they're heard. And these place such huge demands on leaders that they have. That's why they have to continuously evolve. And people, it's led, like there's that whole great resignation, right, and great work awakening that we had in the past couple of years, where we saw 4.5 million people last year when it was time to go back to work, they're just like, peace out, I'm not coming back, right? And they said, I'm not even going. And then even in August to October of this year, there was 13 million people that have, left the workplace. And there's like 40% of working adults in the US that are looking for another job at this time while they're actively working, right? And all of this is because of what we're just discussing. It's because they want their workplace to be about them. They want their leaders to know what their goals are, to support those goals, and the business needs to be aligned with those goals if they're going to have success. So it's really it's kind of a circular approach. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, well, are people leaving, or is it the bad leadership, or is, what's really happening first? And the reality is that the leaders have to evolve, and then that will hopefully lead to people staying in the workplace.
Yeah. And leaders, I do a little bit of work in this intergenerational motivation and engagement space in terms of the research that I do. And, for the last decade, there's been a certain segment of leaders who have been bemoaning the younger millennials, and now we're getting into Gen Z workers, and being frustrated that they are kind of entitled, and they have all these high expectations for ongoing feedback and opportunities for promotions and advancement and all of these things. The entire time I've been seeing this unfold, my thinking is, well, of course they want that, because that's, they just have a heightened level of expectation for leaders. They know what good leadership should look like, and they know when they're not getting it. And when they're not getting it, they're not sticking around. They're willing to go somewhere else. And that's only been accelerated during the course of the pandemic, and especially in the last, 6+ months, as we've just had this really tight labor market and people have tons of options. And so, if I'm a leader who kind of has an old school style and I'm frustrated by this, I can bemoan the fact that younger workers aren't willing to put up with jobs that seem to be tedious, don't have meaning and purpose, where they don't have opportunities for growth and advancement. I can complain about that, or I can choose to grow and adapt and create an environment where my people feel empowered and supported and fulfilled. And that's my choice. And if I choose the first, I'm probably going to lose all my good people. If I choose the latter, I'm going to be competitive. And so, it's a choice that you get to make.
Yeah, it is a choice. And it's interesting as you share it that way, John, because it makes me think of some of my business clients that I coach. And, these are smaller businesses. I work with doctors and entrepreneurs and different professionals that have, businesses that probably range from, $500,000 to maybe 10. And I've seen firsthand ones that are that old style that don't want to change. And they'll say, well, I'll just hire someone else. And they don't realize that, I try to impart this on them, but they don't realize until it happens over and over again, is that, the cost to replace someone is so high. Studies show that, even an employee that's like a $10, $15 employee, the cost to, someone that's been there for a year, the cost to replace them can be up to $25,000. And in larger corporations, it can be as much as like $500,000 to replace someone, right? The cost of like hiring the wrong person, right? And having to go through the process all over again. And that's where they don't see it, right? Is they just think, oh, there's, for that one person that doesn't want to fall in line, there's 10 other people that will do the same thing. And that's no longer the case.
It's not true anymore.
It's not true. Now 3/4 of workers out there, they'll take a lower paying job if it matches their values. And they'll consider a company's social and environmental commitments before they even decide to work for them, right? And if they don't have like corporate responsibility, they're not even going to bother. So that's why you see, whole masses, millions of people that just said, I just won't go back to work because it doesn't, it doesn't match my values. And then you throw in, obviously unemployment and other things into the mix, and then it kind of clouds things. But the big underlying factor is that they want to be supported as individuals, and they want to be valued as individuals.
I'm excited to announce the publication of my new book from HCI Press, Bluer Than Indigo Leadership: The Journey of Becoming a Truly Remarkable Leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There's no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of our problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations. Yeah, and so we can choose to view that as entitlement, and it's certainly a bit different, than previous generations who are willing to go in, start at the very bottom rung, work their way up over decades within the same organization. That's my parents' generation. That's what many of them did. But we've seen that shift for decades. I mean, we've been moving away from that model for a really long time, as the psychological contract between employer and employee has shifted, and neither employee or employer anymore seem to want that kind of long-term, decades-long, career-long commitment to each other. And so, again, I as a leader can be frustrated by the fact that my people seem to be jumping from opportunity to opportunity. But guess what? If you create a dynamic workplace environment that's psychologically safe, that's engaging, that's inspiring, that's purpose driven, people won't be job hopping. They will stick around. There are people that stick around in companies for a long time, but only when they work with great people in a great organization with a great culture. And when that's not the case, of course, they're going to be looking for other opportunities, or at a minimum, an opportunity for career advancement, or, the next role that's going to help launch them into where they want to be in their career. And so we just have to, as leaders today, we can't fall back on the old models. We can't just assume that because we have a title and a position that people are going to follow us. We have to behave in ways that are worthy of their followership. We have to inspire. We have to support. I have to be genuine and authentic, and I have to truly care about my people. That's not necessarily how it was in previous generations. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of examples of people who were wonderful, great leaders in the way we're talking about it today, even in the past. So it's not, I don't want to give the impression that, we're so evolved that all of a sudden now it's just so much better than it was before. I mean, there's always been good leaders, there's always been crappy leaders, but generally speaking, we have made some adjustments, and the workplace just requires a different type of leader today, and the labor force requires a different type of leader today, or they're not going to be willing to stick around.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And the big reality is that it's not just about the culture and the environment. It's about the organization truly supporting that individual and what their dreams and what their goals are. I read this very simple little book by Matthew Kelly called The Dream Manager, where he talks about this fictitious story of this organization that helps, they're suffering. They're a janitorial company, right? And they have huge turnover. It's like 60-70% or some crazy number, right? And they realize that what they need to do is they need to help their employees reach their dreams. And then by doing that, they create a position called a dream manager. And this dream manager, what he does is he supports the employees and counsels them and helps them to fulfill their dreams, whether it's buy a house or, put their kid through college or whatever it is. And then the company grows by leaps and bounds, and the turnover rate declines significantly in a janitorial service company, right? And again, it's a fictitious company, but Matthew Kelly, like I, works with businesses, and it illustrates the point that as Zig Ziglar said, you can have anything you want in life. You just have to help enough other people get what they want. And if you really support others, then and support them in achieving what they want, then guess what? Your business is going to grow. It will grow by default if you support the people. Grow your people, and that's going to grow your business.
Yeah, very, very well said. So as we move into the future of work, we're still kind of in the middle of the pandemic. We have new variants coming out, and people are still wrestling with how to keep their people healthy and safe. We still have more remote workers and hybrid workers than we had pre-pandemic. And the reality is the workplace has shifted, and it will continue to shift. Where are we at? So we've talked about where we were at before, kind of where we're at now. Where do you see us going, say, in the next 10 plus years in terms of the type of leaders that we're going to need moving into the future of work?
They have to have, there's really three components that these leaders have to have. One, they have to have that social impact component. They need to be a social impact leader. Right. And last year during the pandemic, Engage for Good did some research, and they found, and Porter Novelli did some similar research, and they found that 85% of executives, and these are in companies that do minimum of $500 million. Okay. They found that 85% of them believe that being a purpose-driven company drives profit. And consumers believe that it's important for companies to stand for social justice issues. And we saw that last year when, with companies like Nike in response to the George Floyd, incident and things like that. And, what this demonstrates is that if you're socially conscious, if you are a social impact leader, and you propel your company in that regard, like, the example I gave earlier with Pepsi, then that's going to lead to success in your business, right? That's going to help your business to grow. The second one is that, rapid communication and agile communication is king with your clients, and more importantly, with your people, because they need to know why you do what you do, right? Who do you serve? Who do you champion? Why you exist, why they're there. They need to know why they're there. Like, why are they, what work are they doing in the capacity that they do it in, right? And they need to know why they're there at work. And that's only going to become greater in, as we said, with like Generation Z, some of the younger generations, where they really need to have that fulfillment as part of their work, right? And the third component is that, the modern workplace, as you talk about evolution, right? It has that impact component, it has that purpose component, and that fulfillment component. For the leader, it means emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence, it's been around for like 30 years, right? But it's no more important now. It's more important now than ever because of the first two, because of the need for that social impact and the need for showing, fulfilling your employees' dreams and showing that you support them. You have to be an emotionally intelligent individual to do so. Because if you're focused, there's plenty of examples of raw, intelligent people that they don't do well in business, right? Or they do well in business because they have great teams to support them. Like Steve Jobs, for example. He was notorious, like a dictator, but he had great people around him that could be that buffer between, him and everyone else in the workforce, right? But if you have that emotional intelligence component, then that's going to translate to success in your business, because 66% of all small businesses fail due to emotional shortcomings. So if you can be that emotionally intelligent leader, then that's going to translate into growing your people, and that's going to translate into success for your business.
Well said, Rick. It has just been a real pleasure. I note the time and I need to let you go. But before we close, I wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can get connected with you, find out more about your work, your team, your book, your upcoming book, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. It's been a pleasure to be on your show, and I've enjoyed the conversation. I always enjoy that, kind of back and forth conversation about a topic that I'm passionate about. So as far as where people can connect with me, my organization, iSpark Change, we are iSpark Change on all social media platforms. So on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, we have a new LinkedIn group for social impact leaders on LinkedIn called iSpark Change. YouTube channel, all of the above. The best place though is to go to www.isparkchange.com, the letter I and then sparkchange.com. There they can join our community, whether they're an individual or a business leader. They can learn more about social impact. They can learn more about spreading positive change. They can read about and see videos about what we're talking about. And they can nominate someone that they know to be a social impact hero, someone that resonates what we're discussing here today. But that's where they can connect. My book is 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World, that talks about, a lot of things that you can do to support one another in these crazy times. And my upcoming one is 12 Hours of Heaven, Time on Earth. And I won't get into details there. We'll save that for another time. But my parting word to anyone would be to, as I said in the beginning, continue to learn, continue to grow. Don't be stagnant. Anything that is stagnant just rots and dies. And so continue to evolve and grow, whether you're a leader, whether you lead a family or a business or yourself. Just continue that evolution, and you'll continue to flourish.
Well said, Rick. It has been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Rick can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.